The reason we're doing this is I desperately believe we all need a place where we can just come as we are and experience peace and dedicate ourselves to the path of peace, but not peace that is non-action, peace that is actionful in the way that we can take. Because as each of us know, at least each of us hope to know, that the only people that we can truly change are ourselves. When it comes down to it, the only actions that we control are the actions we have and choices we make. And hopefully by leading the example which we wish to have in the greater world, that's how we do that. Just like when we do at noon, right, when we give the offering of a mantra as a rippling into the greater world, how we live our lives, the choices we make, the words we use, and the actions that are our deeds, those are the example by which the world judges us. And that's the only way we have to truly change the world, is by changing ourselves. I was listening to this great song from the Beatles, right? You Say You Want a Revolution. Great song. That's the thing we're talking about. And so today's parameters are going to be, I'm opening it up to everybody. As long as you are peaceful, you are respectful, and you are open to offering prayers. Basically today we're going to be offering prayers and inspiration for others. But the whole thing that came behind this, and this really was a moment yesterday, as of right now, we all know what's happened in Los Angeles, across the nation. They called in the National Guard last night at midnight after a second day of rioting. And one of my dearest friends, her name is Naz, her family store on Melrose, one of 4 stores, their Doc Martin store, which has been there for 20 plus years, got burnt down. Prayers for Peace was inspired by the closing prayer that we say every day at noon, right? It's the last line. Let us go forth refreshed and renewed with a dedication to preserve and protect all life. For we are all children of Isis, the great mother goddess. And that line alone is what inspired this Prayers for Peace. The fact that that we are dedicated to protecting and preserving all life. We do that in the temple, with our animals, with our people programs. That's what we do. We do our best to create a place and a space in the world that is soft and gentle and in which everyone is valued. Doesn't mean it happens perfectly all the time, but that is our aim and that is our goal. And this came around yesterday. Like I said, I'd heard this news about Naz's family store, which has been there for 20 plus years on Melrose, burning down. They survived the Rodney King riots, and this time they didn't. And I think it's really hard on her family to actually recognize this, that their livelihood is gone. There's a moment in every society where the pain, frustration, anger gets too much. And when it becomes overwhelming, when it crosses the line of saturation, you know, when you're in chem lab and they tell you to make a saline solution, right? And you keep adding salt and adding salt and adding salt, and then it reaches that peak of oversaturation, so then it starts spilling out. Never in our Mars society have we been shut down for 3 months. And then literally during those 3 months, all the things that have been festering, all of our anger, our fear, our distrust of authority, our disillusion with people in power, and then to have triggers where I didn't think growing up that I would see race riots again, but here we are. And not only are we seeing race riots, but we're seeing riots for equality. It's triggered by the Black Lives Matters, because all of us believe, and I truly believe this, that everyone on the planet today believes that no one should have to go through life fearful of being murdered, being deprived of basic necessities because of them being themselves. I can't speak to someone's existence being Black or being Hispanic, but I can speak to my own existence of being a clearly alternative gender person my whole life. And I've had moments when I was in high school walking the streets where I had beer bottles thrown at me. where I've been sexually assaulted because of things. Those are things that I can speak from. I can speak from my own experience of being fearful of my own daily existence, even in West Hollywood, for being who I am. And if I feel that way, I know that others feel that way. And no one should have to go through their life feeling that they are going to be deprived of that life, that divine gift of life, for being themselves. No one should have to go through life feeling that way. Just because we're angry, just because we're fearful, just because we're frustrated, doesn't give us the excuse to go out and destroy the world. As the Beatles song says, you say you want a revolution. What they really mean is the revolution has to start from within ourselves. The only people that we can control are ourselves. And what that means is, how do you go out? Do you relate in peace with people? Do you see someone? Do you try to help them? Does that mean you go out? Do you exercise your right to vote? Do you call people? Are you an informed citizen? Do you work within the system that is at hand to change things? And then if the answer is you're not doing everything you possibly can, then you need to change yourself. Because the only way that we can change the future is changing ourselves and leading by the example we wish to be. And that means being vocal about the example that we are leading. It used to be that maybe you could just live your life as a decent person and that would be enough, but that's no longer enough. It's no longer enough to sit behind cloistered walls and simply pray for peace. We need to bring that prayer in ourselves into our daily existence, into the world in which we inhabit. The Taoists say it's easy to be a hermit on the mountain. It's hard to be the pilgrim in the city. And that's what we are. We are the pilgrims that live in the city. We live in society. We are not a religious order that hides from the world. We believe that all life is sacred. We believe that everyone's life matters. And trying to give everyone a chance to offer up prayers and to offer up what they need. And part of that prayer is that can be, hey, this is what we need to get through today. This is what I need in the future. Whatever it is you want to offer, that's what I'm going to let. I want to make this as curated as possible because I know there's a lot of fear, anger, frustration floating around the world today. A place for us to come and focus our prayers so that our prayers become words, which become deeds, which become actions. And that's where all this starts. The whole goal of prayers is to help focus our spiritual intentions to become deeds in the greater world. I'd like to get this started by Linda. Would you like to read the oracle that Lady Olivia, I forget what year Lady Olivia wrote this, but this is so poignant. I read this to DeTracy last night and we both got goosebumps. We both got massive goosebumps on our arms. Because Lady Olivia wrote this over a decade plus ago. She foretold this in an interesting way. So Linda's going to start this with this offering of what Lady Olivia wrote, and then she's going to give her own prayer, and we'll go from there. So thank you all for being present. More people will be joining us as we get through this, but Linda, let me put you on spotlight. Okay, Linda, you're ready to go.
Now, a little bit of background on this. Olivia used to stay several different places in the United States when she visited. And one of my students that lived in Phoenix, Arizona, was Olivia's hostess for several years. Her name was Ambujam. That was her spiritual name. And I went out in 2001 to attend this gathering. We had a tape recorder on, and Olivia knew that, and she said it was fine. And so this is an exact transcription of what she said. I played the tape over and over till I got every word just right. And this was Monday evening, November the 12th in 2001. It was dark moon in Scorpio. And here it goes. I called it, because she never gave it a name, I call it the dawn of the new aeon. And it's the Oracle of Isis. This is the darkest hour before the dawn of the new aeon. We that you call the gods are drawing aside the veil between the psychic realm and the earthly area. More and more people dream dreams. They have visions, the young. And here we have conflicts. The old who have long established teachings, good in their day, feel death is coming upon them. Death of all they believed in, death of the religion of their forefathers, death of what they believed is true, and will bring punishment if they lost belief. This is the time when the snake sheds its skin. It is a time of tribulation and suffering, of fear and confusion in those who reject the spiritual world or who have distorted ideas of it, drawn not from experience, but from the past. Each one of you this evening has come for a particular purpose. You, each one of you, have been chosen to do a task to help those around you enter a new phase, which will bring much change. There will be change in your climate brought about by the folly of your scientists and your misuse of nature. There will be terrible attacks from those who follow the old patriarchal rule that itself crushed the old mother rule. This is not an age coming that is of the mother or of the father. It is of those young in heart who can embrace change and bring about creativity. And the young in heart among the old will rejoice to see our day. This is what you call the second coming, the age of Aquarius, the age of prophecies. So be joyful. You are people of courage. Each one of you has chosen to be incarnate at this time. Every night enter the portals of sleep to receive my coming. I seek the lost, who seek the body of Osiris, who seek those who sleep, for all of this life is only a dream, and you have turned it to nightmare. Now is the time to awaken. And so may it be.
Linda, did you want to give an offering of a prayer or a thought for this today? I wanted to start with Lady Olivia because she's gone, but I think it would be a good place for you to start with.
Oh, I've said this several times lately, but I pray for wisdom and guidance as we go forth with the reopening. I know that people need to get out there and earn a livelihood. I know that there are businesses, the business end of Isis Oasis, it has to be open to support the property. I just feel we need to use wisdom because we're already seeing an upsurge in cases where they've been reopening. People aren't being careful enough. I think we can reopen, but doing things wisely and not just pretending like the current situation doesn't exist. And the pressures at the same time of having to stay home and be isolated, as Justin said, has brought out a lot of frustrations in people. We're seeing the results of these pressures now, where some people are worrying about how they're going to put food on the table. They're worried about maybe getting evicted after the moratorium for evictions is lifted. And it's a very, very, it's almost like they have to choose between going out and working if they can and maybe getting sick, or staying home and starving. That's not a choice. And so my prayer is that we can find a place of compassion, because I think this is showing that the old system doesn't work. For sure it doesn't work. And if I can get a little political here, big corporations are calling the shots and they shouldn't be. So that's my prayer, is that humanity will awaken. This is a wake-up call. Dua aset.
Thank you, Linda. Jeff, I see you hiding in the corner over there, and you had some beautiful thoughts earlier about softness. And please share something, because your thoughts on softness right now is what we desperately need. We're so We are told to be warriors 24/7 for everything we need. We're told to fight for our food. We're told to fight for our rights. We're told to fight for peace. We're told to fight for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're no longer taught or accepted to be soft or to be gentle or be demure. The society doesn't like that anymore. So I really liked your thoughts on that earlier. So please reshare that, Jeff.
What I said came about when we were speaking of equality earlier in the feminist movement. When we thought of masculine traits as being strength and feminine traits as being gentleness. And I thought of the feminist movement originally injecting gentleness into our society. Well, now both genders are taught to be tough. And I think it's not working. And I think we need to be gentle. Someone posted on Facebook the beautiful speech Robert Kennedy gave the night of the assassination of Martin Luther King. Bobby Kennedy was campaigning for the presidency. The crowd he went to had not heard of the assassination, and he had to announce to this crowd, many of whom were Black, break the news to them that Martin Luther King had been killed. And he gave an eloquent, beautiful, heartfelt talk from his mind, off the cuff. And he finished it with a poem by Aeschylus, the Greek. And the last line of the poem is, "Make gentle this life." And then Bobby Kennedy said, "Let us dedicate ourselves to that." Mm-hmm. And I just think that it's time for us all, when Linda and I go up to ISIS Oasis, usually about twice a year, we feel that gentleness when we come up there. And we all need to inject that into our lives, into everyone else's lives, and into society. We need to remember to be gentle and sweet and tread lightly. And so peace and gentleness and love.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. That brought tears coming up. So thank you. And thinking about gentleness and where we are in the US society, I'm also in contact with people on the other side of the world. And some of the things that we're struggling with right now, they've been struggling with for decades and will continue to struggle with for many, many more decades to come. So feeling into our hearts, what we know we can control, as you were saying, Justin. We can also control how we speak, how we look at people, and how we respond to all the energies that can come at us, whether you're at home and go on social media or not. When you go to the store, there's chatter. When you go to just go for a walk, if there's people around, there's chatter. I'm seeing people completely ignoring the situation because in San Diego, it's not so bad. But in New York, it's pretty bad. And in LA, as Justin was saying, it's pretty bad. And seeing on the news what's happening and having our livelihoods taken away and our freedoms taken away little by little. We have people that are fighting for it and they don't know how to fight. And from my perspective, that's what we're engaged with rioting. They don't know how to fight. They're going with their instinct, their primal instinct, their caveman, cavewoman instinct, because they don't have the proper tools and education to really learn how to fight properly, how to manage their own feelings. And so I call upon us to do what we can from afar if we can't be in touch physically or be in the perimeter, to support programs that offer outreach. Black Lives Matter is an incredible organization, and like all of them, they have fringes. And if we can support those organizations in a positive way so that they can put more outreach to the fringes to offer the education, and kindness and gentleness as part of that education, we can help quell the fires that are burning within our hearts. And as we continue to soften the grip that we have to protect our health, we can also soften the grip that people are feeling, literally cutting off their life supply. And if we can do it in the US, it would be a great example for the other third world countries that just don't have the opportunity or the knowledge or the support. And collectively, whatever race or religion we are, and I'm sharing this with my family who have mixed feelings about what's happening, you're human, number one. And we all deserve that basic human love. So my ask and my blessing is that may we have the courage to continue our hope and support of organizations that can make a difference in a positive way. And may we believe that our actions will make that difference, because it will. Thank you.
We have one of the greatest teachers of passive resistance that changed a nation in Gandhi. Martin Luther King, actually, if you read his letters, he talks that he got his passive resistance from the example of Gandhi. And if you go into Gandhi's, people always asked him, why was your protest successful, right? They kept asking him that. And he goes, because we were spiritually one. He said that when they were protesting, he goes, first of all, we believed in the principle of non-violence. He goes, we were spiritually pure in our non-violence. We sat there together, we suffered together, and we did not pick up stones. We have forgotten that if you want to change things, you don't. The more you fight someone, the more that they know that they can accept they'll hit you because you're gonna hit them back. That just gives them more power over you, and that gives them more authority to brutalize you. That gives them more of an excuse to slap your cheek, an eye for an eye. But if you are sitting there and you are praying, if you are sitting there and you are doing a passive resistance, that is what sparks the revolution. That's what got the British out of India. That's what got India its statehood, is that they were spiritually one. And my prayer is that these people who are acting on their fight or flight response, that they know that they are more than that they know that they have this spiritual heritage. They have a toolkit to change. And that is my prayer. Thank you, Haya. I'm gonna start crying. Today's a really, really day.
Yeah. It's a hard day.
Yeah, it is. I think we're gonna go to Tracy next.
I have some things to share, but I just wanted to respond to Haya's beautiful words on describing the situation very completely. And also, I just wanted to raise up into consciousness. I truly believe that there's a huge difference between the protesters and the rioters. And as reports start coming in, it seems like that's really being underlined, that those that are protesting are doing so peacefully, and in many places they are then followed by others that seem to have a different agenda. And I think some of those agendas are being imposed. And just as it happened in the 1960s, those that were protesting for peace tended to end up being demonized, and a lot of their movement being taken over by those who did not have, the slogan, give peace a chance, and actually were threatened by peace. I think we're seeing something else here, and it's deeply alarming. And I really believe that one thing that we need to kind of turn to is calling on the inner spirit of our nation to protect itself, to bring forth the light, not to bring forth the weapons, but to bring forth the light on what is actually happening here. And I think what we can do as clergy people especially is to pray for the protection of those who are raising their voices, crying out for peace, crying out for appropriate justice, and most especially crying out that this horrible trend that is developing stops. And that, I think, is where a lot of our efforts can go in just being places for that energy to come forth. It's also crucial, and this is very, very hard, for us to be as balanced as we possibly can be. And that doesn't just mean not being upset, it also means not being depressed, to keep ourselves in as functional a space as possible so that we can support those that need us the most. And that's hard because my adrenaline reacts when I see these terrible things happening, when I hear these terrible things happening. And it's difficult to come back to a place that's both powerful and peaceful. But that's the kind of radiant energy that we need to be bringing forth if we want to get through this time, and get through this time not only intact, but on our way to a still greater wholeness. So I think that's one of the things that we need to emphasize on bringing forth. So whatever practices that you have that help you to maintain that equilibrium, now is a very good time to reach for that. Perhaps meditating on Ma'at or the wings of Isis. We need both wings to fly. We need both legs to walk. We need that dynamic balance to move forward. So strive to maintain that dynamic balance so that we can move forward confidently and radiating peace as we go through these very difficult days. And they may indeed grow more difficult. Hopefully we will be able to, by divine grace, divert that, and things will turn around soon and take a better path. But if not, we still need to maintain that balance, because we may be the only ones that can really radiate that. And that's a challenge. One thing I wanted to share today is something that Lady Lorian wrote on peace. As some of you know, she loved to create different directional invocations for different topics. And she, before she died, was working on putting these together into a book similar to that of her, sacred scrolls. And I've taken up this project recently. And so I've been going through and finding as many of these as I can. And there's about at least 30 of them, and I'm sure some more will emerge as time goes on. But there's one that she wrote specifically for honoring for peace. And this is one of the things that you do, when you're calling upon the directions. And this is a little different than some of the other ones that she does. But shall we do it? Starting in the East?
Why don't you read them out to Tracy?
Okay. All right. To the East, element of air, let us think of peace and show the world we care. To the South, element of fire, let us speak out to tell of our desire. To the West, element of water, peace we request for all, every son and daughter. To the North, element of earth, let us go forth and show peace is our right of birth. And to the goddess, Isis, mother of us all, she wishes for us a peaceful world where all is filled with joy. A wondrous, beautiful, happy place for every girl and boy. Where all the animals, trees, and plants grow to their best potential. For this, we need a peace plan. She says it is essential. So today, before we go to sleep, let us pray all wars and conflicts will cease, and soon our lovely planet will enjoy a world of peace. So that is one way of calling in the directions in a peaceful way and in a pleasant and fun way. And while it's very hard to go to those ways of thinking in these times, we need to return to that. We need to return and make a path for happiness, make a path for joy, make a path for peace. Because sometimes talk about an oxymoron is the phrase fighting for peace. And, you know, sometimes we need to just radiate the peace, that that pathway may be there and be tread by more and more people, and hopefully become stronger and stronger with the repetition of that motion upon it. So may we all be able to radiate that path of peace today and as long as we need to. Thank you.
Rumi in his lifetime was a very powerful teacher because he came from a lineage of legal scholars, legal teachers. And when he met Shams, he was actually leading a group of 16 students to the marketplace, and he's quoting laws. And this voice, as they're wandering through the marketplace, the voice calls out and says, "Liar," the first time. And Rumi drops his stuff, but he's looking around, he can't find the person. And then they, get up and they keep talking, they keep going, and Rumi's teaching. And all of a sudden this voice says, "Untrue." And Rumi once again drops his things, and he can't see people. And they go through the market again, and as they're leaving the market, Rumi is articulating Muslim law, and the last one says, "Liar, untruth." And the last one was like, "False." And at that moment, Rumi drops his thing by a fountain, and as all of his things fall into the fountain where everyone's getting their water, his books are destroyed. And he looks up, and Shams is sitting there laughing at him, and that's how Rumi and Shams meet. Rumi's whole life 3 times is awoken to him that it's falsehood, that it's a lie, that it's despair. And that love that Rumi felt completely transformed him. His encounter with Shams, who means son, completely transformed Rumi into the realized human being we have today. That realization, that poke of enlightenment where we see beyond the falsehood of anger, where we see beyond the falsehood of societal norms, where we look beyond what is and what could be, that is the dream that we're all dreaming. That's the dream that we should awaken ourselves to and help others awaken to. But once again, action must come from within. The revolution that we're all craving, we're all craving change right now. We've all collectively on a global, we've all suffering, and some of us are still suffering in isolation. I'm still in isolation. Up here, we're in isolation. LA's in isolation. For 3, now going on 4 months, we have been in isolation. No livelihoods, no outside resources, scrambling how we're gonna pay our rent, how are we gonna continue our just basic necessities. We all have been suffering together, a global suffering, which I think for the first time in humanity, we're all suffering literally at once. And in that suffering, we have allowed fear, which, to quote one of my favorite things, fear is a great mind killer. Or as Yoda says, fear leads to the dark side. Fear of oppression, fear of our power being taken away, fear of our life being taken away. That's what we're all suffering from. And in that moment, when something what has just happened, when we see on television, when we see on our social media, when we see on the internet, when we see on our phones, when we are constantly having to bear witness to the inequalities, the iniquities, and the very snuffing out of the precious gift of life that we all hold so dear. Not snuffing out because they're in a war zone, snuffing out because they are simply being themselves. When we have to witness that in the midst of this pain, even people who are walking the path of enlightenment, even people who are walking this path of being centered and grounded, this is, even we are being affected. We're crying, we're in anxiety, we're in depression. But those people who are suffering, who don't have the tools to cope with this is what we're seeing with the protesters. There are many people in this younger generations who do not know the example of Gandhi, who do not know the example of Martin Luther King, who are not connected with the past. There's a disconnection. There's a massive disconnect. They are not, from about 30 years ago onwards, we were told that integration was great. We're doing well. Saturday morning cartoons, everybody's happy. That was a veneer, that was a Band-Aid. And because of the growing inequality in our global society, we are seeing these things being ripped open and anew. And because people don't have the continuity of the past to see that, oh my gosh, we can protest peacefully, we can overturn governments, we can do this by being peaceful, by sitting here and being spiritually pure with the peaceful intent in our hearts. Because they don't see that, they are trapped within the cycle of violence, the cycle of ego, the flight or fight response, and they are trapped within this. And they don't have to be. There are all these amazing souls who know this is wrong, who crave change, but they feel as if their voice doesn't matter. They feel as if their voice isn't being heard. They feel as if they're trapped within the chains of the past. So this is where we get this destruction. They don't understand that this destruction isn't going to make their situation better. It's much harder to come back from a scorched earth than it is to come back from the garden and just replant. My prayer, when I pray and when I give offerings to the divine, whatever path you follow, whether it's Jesus, Buddha, Kuan Yin, Durga, Ganesh, whoever it is that you follow, most of them all practice and preach peace. And my prayer is that our hearts are opened, that our hearts are made steady, and that as we live by example, as we choose, if we go out and protest, if we go out and sit, and if we go out and pray, if we are talking with organizations like Black Lives Matter, whatever we are doing, and we need to be doing something, whatever it is that you as an individual are doing, do it in a way that is spiritually pure, that is peaceful within your heart, that you radiate that peacefulness and that wisdom. Be an anchor and be the light you wish to see in the world, and be active about that light. Share how you achieve that light with others, because that's the only way that that whole, the Mahamundi, mother of all souls, that's the only way that she's going to change the world, is by you sharing your pathway. Someone else may not take that path, but they may take the path next to yours. So it's only by sharing and by leading by example. Be the light you wish to see in the world. It's not easy, but do it. We need the world change. We can't keep going down the road we're going down right now, where our freedoms, our voices are being stolen. Our voices are being stolen. Our lives are being stolen. These are not okay. And we have to communicate that in a way that matters. Tracy mentioned back in the 60s how, give peace a chance. If you read the headlines and that things, even now, we go, oh, the 60s. It's because people who crave destruction took over that movement and they villainized everyone. If we remained spiritually pure, as Gandhi said, in our intent for non-violent protest, we can achieve this. Gandhi led a whole nation to overthrowing the British and to establishing a peaceful spiritual revolution. That's what happened in India. Martin Luther King said that his pacifist tendencies were greatly influenced by Gandhi. Let us share those principles. Do your homework. Look within yourself. What principles and techniques do you develop to maintain your spiritual purity for passive, non-violent protest? And share that, share that, share that, share that. Be the anchor. If you see something that's wrong, stand up and say that's wrong. Speak your voice. That is the divine gift that the divine has given you, is your voice. Raise your voice, not your fist. I know these sound like platitudes, but these are the only tools that we have that truly make a difference. Because if you hit someone, they're going to hit you back. We know this in physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Don't have that. Be calm, be centered, be non-violent. Be passive in your craving for change. That is my prayer over and over and over again. Like I said when I started this video, yesterday when I had this idea of coming through, as I'm preparing for this, one of my dearest friend, Naz, you know, she was literally saying, hey guys, I need your love. And we're like, okay, what's going on? Her family, which has the Doc Martin. If you've gone to Melrose, you know the Doc Martin store. It's been there for 20 plus years. It's kind of an institution. Her family has owned and run that for maybe 30 years. And she didn't know. Her family had boarded it up and then they had left because they didn't want to be there when the looting happened. And last night, as I was saying earlier, they found out that the store had been burnt down via TMZ because TMZ was following the celebrity protesters, and then they covered the rioting. And only 4 stores got burnt down last night before they called the National Guard. And the Doc Martin store, her family store, was one of the stores that got burnt down. And this is all coming at me as I'm trying to prepare this lecture for Prayers for Peace. As we're trying to prepare this gathering for Prayers for Peace, one of my nearest and dearest friends over 8 years has literally had her whole family livelihood fallen apart. And they've been through so much shit in the last couple of years, I can't even, I pray this is the last thing they go through. But they went through this, and the looters literally, TMZ covered their store being broken into and then looted and then burnt and scorched the ground. And that didn't need to happen. That sort of stuff doesn't need to happen. Destruction never breeds more bliss. Destruction is destruction. There's a reason they call it destruction. It destroys utterly. And so if we wish to achieve peace, we must be in a passive, pure, peaceful way. And I'm trying to say this in a way that I'm not angry at the protesters. I'm trying to say this in a way that I am coming from a balanced state, because we can only achieve this if we come from a place of love and peaceful intention. But I want to be angry. I want to be upset. I want to be crying right now because one of my dearest friends has lost, their whole family has lost their livelihood. Yet we cannot come from a place of anger, because when you raise your fist and not your voice, others respond in kind. It is only when you break the system, when you break the wheel of oppression, can these things change. So, as Tracy said, my prayer is that we do not villainize this movement, because it's easy. People in power say Black lives. The activists are, oh, they're terrorists. They're, you know, anarchists. No, they have legitimate concerns. They are trying to get this addressed in legitimate manners, and it's not working. The system is not hearing them. They are not being heard. Change is not happening, which is why we keep having these fires and these volcanic explosions of emotions. But if we sit and we hold space for a better outcome, and we're in those spaces and we lead by example, that is how change ripples out. It's a cause and effect. That is my prayer. I would also recommend everyone here looking at the Peace Pilgrim, an amazing woman who walked for 20 years from place to place preaching peace. An amazing woman.